Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where I want to dig a little deeper into the world of adtech once again. So many people are saying that the industry is broken at the moment, but I want to explore both the challenges and the opportunities ahead. And while online ad spend grew to $88 billion last year, according to the Interactive Advertising Bureau, more than 90% of that growth last year went to Google, Facebook, essentially the usual suspects. Meanwhile, these two companies are seemingly scooping up ad tech companies left, right and centre. So the obvious question is it possible in this new digital world to be a profitable independent digital advertising company? Or are all these companies, to put it bluntly, pretty much screwed? For any of you listening that love a good old-fashioned inspirational tech startup story, you should love today's episode. But I don't want to reveal too many spoilers, so it's probably safer if we dive straight into today's episode. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to New York so we can speak with Eric Wheeler from 33Across, who's going to share his inspirational story. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Eric. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, thank you for having me on the podcast. Super excited to be here. I'm Eric Wheeler. I'm the CEO of 33Across, also the co-founder. I've been here for about 11 years now since we started the company. And I'm CEO, as I mentioned, and a little bit about 33Across. We're a technology company that's focused on really solving the challenge of consumer attention in this crazy world of automated advertising. Without getting into all the tech speak, what we do very simply is we build software and platforms that enable brands and publishers to create advertising that really delivers great attention and better engagement.
Now, 33Across has established itself as the attention technology company and recently launched Attention X, the first open advertising exchange, delivering only viewable inventory and attention-based advertising. But can you just set the scene a little and tell me more about what Attention X is exactly, and also the kind of problems that you're solving and what makes it unique from more traditional solutions out there?
Sadly, 50 to 70% of inventory on traditional ad exchanges today is not in view. That means that buyers are spending more and more time and resources navigating through the junk and the crap and the stuff that's not what they want in order to meet just basic viewability standards, and that in less time figuring out how they actually should be driving a campaign and driving campaign successes. They have to do an incredible amount of work just to keep from buying inventory they don't want. With Attention X, we're aiming to give buyers a foundation of viewability from the start, really. And the tools and the technology we've built on Attention X is drive a better time in view and really move the industry standard much, much higher. And we do that in a couple ways. First, we're flipping the model and applying real-time viewability filters to our inventory before it ever enters the exchange. Nobody's doing that. So the number one thing that's so innovative here is that buyers no longer have to spend time and money sifting through worthless impressions or building custom deals or PMPs, what are called preferred marketplaces, just to block the stuff they don't want. Everything's quality right from the start. Next, what we've done is we've made our proprietary impact ads part of our open exchange. So these formats, what's crazy is the industry's struggling to get to 50% of an ad in view for 1 second. And what we have is these incredible ad formats, our impact formats, that have an average time in view of 25 seconds, right? And we do all of that, and our technology transforms standard ad formats into these high impact units without any creative lift. So it's really, really incredible and easy for buyers to do. And third, we've integrated in and we work with all our DSP partners such that now they can buy our attention-based buying products, such as time in view-based buying. And what that means is you can actually start to buy now on 2 seconds in view, 5 seconds in view, 15 seconds in view. We're actually kind of coming back to the days of radio and television where you can actually start to kind of, how much time do you want to have with that user? And what is the right amount of time to get my brand message across? We're doing that. with our attention targeting and platform with the biggest programmatic buyers in the world today.
Now, before I drill down further into what you guys are doing, you've got a fantastic backstory. So I want to try and take you back to where all this began. So if this was a video podcast, we'd have some little waves coming down the screen now. But what was the inspiration behind the company, and what actually put you on this tech startup journey?
It is kind of the way back machine there. My co-founder and I and some of our early investors were sitting around and talking about how we could leverage data and what we knew about a page, what we knew about kind of what was going on in how people were engaging and spending time on websites. And we thought we could really actually kind of come up with a better way to do that. And so I remember I came home and talked to my wife after kind of some brainstorming with my co-founder and our first investor. My co-founder is Greg Levitt, and Dave Morgan was our first investor and kind of helped us really shape this business. And came home and I talked to my wife and I talked about what we just talked about. Well, if we could do this, it would unlock advertising. It would unlock the web. And she said, "Oh, it's just like in the New York Times when I do the crossword puzzle. It's right around 32 or 33 across. I get a big fat horizontal word, and if I solve that, it unlocks a whole puzzle for me." I'm like, brilliant, amazing metaphor. I love it. URL's available. Perfect. We start with a number, not a letter. You basically have to be, to be better than us, you have to be like 111 across at this point. But that's where the name came from. And we've really been consistently delivering on a mission to improve online advertising and really understand what drives attention and improve quality through automated technology.
And in July 2012, I think you just completed a $13 million Series C round. But as the founder and CEO of a high-flying adtech startup, 33Across had an uneasy feeling, one that would soon morph into despair. So can you tell me more about what happened and why you were forced to pivot? Because I think this story here is so valuable to other startup founders on their own journey right now.
Yeah, so I think it was a crazy time where our business was growing very, very well. And we were leveraging all of our data and targeting to build predictive models in a fashion, in a delivery that was very similar to other companies like Rocket Fuel that were growing very quickly. But what we saw was really the early signals of programmatic really taking off. And, tactically and specifically, I saw in 1 month, $4 million of pipeline disappear. And it wasn't, bad forecasting. It wasn't bad, estimating. It was people were no longer buying what we were selling, full stop. And, what we saw was we hit this kind of wall and programmatic buying was taking over. Agencies were building their own trading desks that could take over programmatic buying and kind of doing what was kind of an ad network before. DSPs were involved in doing some of that too. And we just saw the world of programmatic taking over. And the way in which we were making money, we weren't going to be able to do anymore. We realized it pretty quick. And it was kind of, I don't know if you ever remember the television show Battlestar Galactica. Oh. And it was one of these, a great show. And I'm kind of the bald Lauren Green. But I wish I was. He did a cool voice too, Commander Adama, I think. But what we realized was this isn't a fad. Programmatic's taking over, and we as a company are not positioned for success. And probably the best decision we made was we sequestered our best people, not our most senior. Some of them are senior, but some of them were the brightest people and still are. And some of them don't work here anymore, and they're some of the brightest people in the industry. We sequestered them in our Sunnyvale office, and I said, come back with 3 options. And they came back in 45 days, and one of these options was this new business model that we have today. And had we not moved quickly to say, wait a minute, programmatic's taking over, quality is a theme that's going to be pervasive, and the need to deliver attention in a way that can do that with transparency. Let's make ads work. Let's have better ads, not more ads. And let's figure out a way that we can do that that respects the user relationship, respects the publisher relationship, and delivers on attention for brands. That's going to be a big problem. That's going to need to be solved, and we think we can do it. And that set us on a path, and we moved very, very quickly to move and organize the company on that level. But it was that decision to, even though the market. You could have said, oh, we had a bump. We lost $4 million. We said, that's not a bump. That's a sea change. And we ended up being one of the very, very early companies to say, wait a minute, we went from kind of being put out of business by programmatic to be flipping and having the wind that was kind of in our face. We turned and it became the wind behind our sails, and it's driven significant growth for us over the past 4 years.
So what would you say your secret is to turning a challenge that could have actually put you completely out of business and transforming that into an opportunity that would in the end secure 100% year-over-year growth for the past 4 years, I think it is now?
Yeah, well, as I said, I think the secret was we were radically transparent with our team, and the things that were putting us out of business, we focused on actually building and delivering solutions that would actually scale in that new early marketplace of programmatic. The key was really focusing a team that we put, not only did we have that team that was sequestered to deliver this, but then we actually ring-fenced them so they could only deliver this and removed every other responsibility that they had to deliver this. So they could deliver the MVPs and get us into market and think like a tech and product-based company, really to drive scale. That capability, while we saw our revenues in the next year were dropping very quickly on the original business model and the network business model, we saw a corresponding and equal growth coming from this new business model. And it's like trying to keep one fire going with a limited amount of wood, and then every chance you can blowing on and fueling this new fire over here. And we were just lucky enough with enough cash and enough grit and enough really drive to be able to fan those flames in a way that we were able to really replace 100% of the revenue we lost from the ad network business model were made up completely in the same year from the new business.
Which pretty much brings us right up to speed. And while if we look back to last year, I think although online ad spend grew to $88 billion, according to the Interactive Advertising Bureau, more than 90% of that growth last year can be attributed directly to Google or Facebook. Meanwhile, these two companies, and suddenly AT&T, who are also getting in on the act, are seemingly scooping up ad tech companies. So the obvious question is that I've got to ask, is it even possible in this new digital world to be a profitable, independent digital advertising company when you've got these three heavyweights, tech behemoths, just seem to be hoovering everything up?
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. In fact, we're living proof of that. If you look at the industry and what's happening, I think we're seeing less overall interest in Google and Facebook from buyers, right? They're under the gun, particularly in Europe, on privacy and a bunch of other challenges. There's a lot of question about how they grade their own homework. Are they really delivering what they've said? And many, many other challenges for both the big guys in Google and Facebook. What we've seen from buyers and predominantly the biggest programmatic buyers, they are putting a premium on direct, impactful publisher relationships, right, with that are based in quality. And our technology enables that. Right. You can even look at and there's a ton of really interesting stuff that's happening in the industry right now. The AT&T example you talked about, we're going to see consolidation. We're going to see companies realizing that they need to compete with Google and Facebook. They're going to start to build together their own kind of unique and broad end-to-end capabilities like both. And even most recently, Nexstar just put a bid in to acquire Tribune for $6.4 billion. These guys are a platform and media technology company now rolling in one of the largest local media companies in Tribune in the world. Like, we're going to see more and more of this happening. It's pretty exciting because you're either competing against Facebook and Google, or you're not going to be here. And everybody's starting to weigh in on a big boy standpoint to really pull together some interesting technology. It's an exciting time.
I'm so glad you raised that there, because it does feel like the ad industry has lost its way a little. And with Google and Facebook increasingly getting in the news for all the wrong reasons, I mean, do you think the landscape will inevitably change and the balance will be restored a little bit?
I think the programmatic industry has grown up.
Yeah.
Right. It's built. We've really built over the past. And programmatic's been around for since 2010 at the earliest, 2011 and 12, when 2012 really started to pick up. But what it's done is we've built enabling and verifying technology that in the industry, and I think the industry is really starting to hold itself more accountable. It's like growing from a teenager into an adult. I have one teenage daughter and one about to be, and I'll tell you, it's amazing. They're brilliant and so smart and fantastic, and then the next second they do something that's just stupid. And I think as we've seen, the programmatic industry has really grown up, and there's far less stupidity, much more kind of maturity in understanding the business objectives of what buyers and publishers are trying to do with enabling technology. And in that, I do think there'll be consolidation as the entire ecosystem. Like, there's a lot of hops in programmatic today. You got to move through, and you can throw in acronyms like DMP and SSP and exchange and CDP and all these other things. But what we're going to see from an infrastructure standpoint is a shortening of this. And I think the entire system needs to be shorter, more connected, much more quality driven and transparent. And that's really going to be driven by the two ends of this. On one side, you've got a buyer demanding quality and transparency, and you have a publisher saying, hey, I'm not okay with 50, 60% of every dollar that comes to me going to someone else. And in that, I think there's going to be a lot of really interesting moves that happen from a landscape standpoint. It's going to be smaller. I think it's going to be faster. And it's going to end up, ultimately what it means is better return on ad spend and better results because there's just less intermediaries.
So as for Attention X right here and right now in the future, I mean, what big goals are you going after? What does the future look like for Attention X in your eyes? What's your big grand vision for it?
It's kind of exciting from a base standpoint because what we do at 33Across and Attention X, we're providing a platform that is unlike anything else, where every impression is quality. Every impression is viewable. And then the ability to layer on top of that targeting, like attention-based targeting, to minimum time in view, capabilities that really drive the industry forward. And that desire for more quality, that desire for really doing kind of a better level of media targeting and driving a better ad experience is universal. So this isn't something that's just happening in the United States. We've got, we're growing globally. We've got teams around the world in the UK, India, Japan, and of course in the US. And I think we're positioned extremely well to bring our platform to every major market globally.
Finally, you've been on an incredible roller coaster ride. I mean, what are the biggest lessons that you've learned along your personal startup journey that you think would be actually valuable for startup founders listening to us today?
That's a great question. I just came back from around the world trip, visiting many of our offices and our partners globally. And so I had a lot of time to think about this kind of stuff. I think the first thing I would guide any entrepreneur and any business leader is one, first, you have to be transparent with your employees. When you're going through major changes, you do it at any time. You should really be transparent with your employees. But when you're going through major changes, you're asking people to really trust you. And the more information you give, the more believable all this is. And let me give you an example of that. So one of the things we did that really came out when we made the pivot in the business, and everybody said, well, what's going on, and are we really going to make it through, and what's our revenue going to be like tomorrow, and what, no surprise. I said, well, here, guys, I tell you what, I'll give you, when I get the revenue reports, you'll get them. So we set up a structure where at 8 a.m. and at 8 p.m., revenue goes out to every single employee. How much revenue did we make yesterday? A first cut of it at 8 a.m. and at 8 p.m., all the other stuff gets added up, and what did we do? And I did it because I needed to be transparent with these employees. But the thing I didn't expect, and they needed to trust me, and they needed to know what's going on. But what I didn't expect was what they would do with that trust and that transparency. Now it's part of our culture, and every employee looks at this, and I don't have to hold a meeting to say, I need to inform you that yesterday's revenue was down, and according to the GPS report, I need to get 3 more FTEs. If they see something not working, they're on it. Engineers, product, operations, sales, they're already self-motivating and driving solutions around the problems and opportunities they see. They also are super excited because if I brought on a new partner or a new client or a new publisher or a new integration, they can see the results, in seconds. It's just incredibly fulfilling, and it's something I would say to any leader, that kind of transparency, and really being able to kind of pull that together and share that. It really does make everybody responsible for the number and the bottom line. The other thing I would think about is I think particularly in the world of technology, and there's an advertising technology itself, it's kind of full of buzzwords and a bunch of other things. But in our case, ultimately what we're doing is we're building technology that delivers on attention, right? And there may be different features and functionalities and types of formats and video and other things that are all part of that. But the key as an executive is to focus on the surprisingly simple things. This is some of the stuff that's really helped me in the turnaround. So the key for us, and when we first made this pivot, was to focus on what the market wanted at that time. You could say, oh, the market's going to turn, and in 24 months, we think this is going to be big, and all we need is 10% of everybody in China to buy this, and we'll be a huge business. Great. But when you're in the thick of it, deliver on what the market wants today. It seems obvious, but you need to deliver on what customers need now. Your vision of the future and what you think's probably going to happen in a few years, it's probably not right. Let's be honest. If you were right, you'd be an investor and you wouldn't be in this business. So, it's true that investors want to know that you're ahead of the game, but really nothing beats a growing business. Nothing beats a business that every single day is growing and scaling, and what you have. I mean, Sam Palmisano, former president or CEO of IBM, said it. His dad was he grew up. His dad was a baker, and they had a bread truck. And his approach to sales, driven at IBM, basically came from his childhood, which was, what are we going to sell? Well, let's sell what's on the truck. And what we have is 5 more loaves of this bread and 6 more loaves of that. Let's sell that. And you can't get too ahead of yourself. You have to resist the temptation to solve problems that are too far out. Because if customers don't see the value and they don't connect to it, they won't buy it, right? Forget about the R&D. You need to make sure, particularly in a case when you're in a pivot or you're in nothing trumps traction, nothing trumps growth. Deliver on what the market needs and wants today. You'll solve tomorrow. Deliver today.
Fantastic advice. I think we've all seen tech solutions out there that solve problems that don't even exist yet. But I'm conscious, if anyone listening out there that want to find out more information about AttentionX or what you guys do at 33Across, stay up to date with your developments over the coming months, or maybe just start a conversation with you guys, what's the best way of finding you online?
33across.com is the hub, and you can get to us there multiple ways at 33across.com. And of course, all the social channels, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm active on the Facebook. No, not really, but more LinkedIn and Twitter. I think Facebook actually thinks I only have one daughter at this point. The other daughter doesn't even, Facebook doesn't even know about it. I haven't yet, and she's 9. So.
I'll add all those links to the show notes just so people can find you nice and easily. I love your philosophy, especially the better ads, not more ads. And also your tech startup story, where through a combination of grit, determination, tenacity, it's helping you drive better experiences, but on a global scale. It really is inspirational. And for anybody on their own startup journey, I'm sure they're going to find it incredibly valuable too, that's listening to us today. So a big thank you for taking the time to come on today and share that story with me. Cheers.
Thanks, Neil. Really appreciate it.
You may or may not have noticed from the recording there, but not only did Eric have an amazing startup story, but he also had an hilarious, cheeky and mischievous side, something that I can relate to. Now, I'm going to put it out there. If we ever grab a beer on one of my many trips to the US, or if he comes over here to the UK, I think things could get quite messy. But Eric really is a great guy and someone I could just chat and laugh with for hours. But on a serious note, I cannot thank Eric enough for sharing his dramatic 180-degree pivot that his company was forced to make. And one of the things that we didn't mention here in the podcast was just how bad things got. And he did have to shed 70 people from the workforce of 100. and then find a way to gain back the trust of the 30 existing employees who remained. But he did just that and created an entirely new business model, while simultaneously convincing investors and customers that consisted of agencies and brands to stick with the company. And the result of that turnaround has been dramatic. 33Across has seen 100% year-over-year growth for the past 4 years and has effectively gone from zero revenue to an annual run rate of $100 million, while also becoming profitable. And if that doesn't inspire startup founders listening to this show, I don't know what will. And how did Eric accomplish this amazing feat? There's a great quote from him where he said, "The things that were putting their model out of business, the move to programmatic automated online advertising, the need for more transparency and the focus on greater ad quality were the exact things that they ended up basing the business on while they were going forward." In short, Eric turned around 33Across by cleaning up the mess that the online advertising industry had created in this move towards aggressive, in-your-face, disruptive advertising. Food for thought indeed, and so many lessons for startup founders listening today. And if you are one of them, why not let me know your insights, your feedback, by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweeting me @Neil C. Hughes, or of course pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. And finally, before I do go today, a big hello to one of my podcasting students, Jeff Inkler, who now has 6 episodes of his education podcast, Getting Unstuck, available on Spotify and iTunes. I salute you, my friend. And if anyone listening would like to work with me to bring their concept for a podcast to life, let me know and I'll work with you on that. So today's alternative Christmas movie is Trading Places. So it's time for me to take a glass of mulled wine and mince pie and say thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.